Check. 1, 2.
The
Brief.
This is the Debrief.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the Debrief.
Welcome to the Debrief for the week of April 23rd, 2018. I am your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
Hi, I'm Becky Scarcello.
And I'm Jag.
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Good to be back. You guys let me come back this week.
We did.
We decided, yeah, sure, why not? We got an exciting show for you. We've got Rio Scafone. She is the lead singer of Rio and the Rockabilly Revival. Also nominated for a couple of Detroit Music Awards this year. Not her first time being nominated either. She's,
Yeah, they've been around.
This is coming up. You're excited. You're presenting there, aren't you?
I am excited and terrified. But it's probably going to be my only chance to actually be on stage at the Fillmore, so I will take it.
Picture everybody in their underwear.
Yes.
Okay, I can do that.
You can ask her for tips.
I will.
Also, Jag, I know you got a chance to talk to the folks over at Motor City Nightmares.
Very cool event and some Midwestern hospitality that they bring to an event like this. We'll get into that a little bit later on.
And we've got Bailey. Our good friend, who is the
friend of the show.
Yeah, absolutely, friend of founder of Detroit History Tours and the Detroit History Club. Knows, I mean,
she's a walking encyclopedia that's actually interesting with pictures and videos.
or for our younger listeners, a walking Wikipedia. If you don't know what an encyclopedia is,
but with lots of pictures and stories.
Yes.
Yeah,
she's a great storyteller. So we decided that we would have her back on the show to talk to us a little bit about some Detroit history. We'll see what she pulls out of her hat. And of course, we've got all your concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. That's coming up. And one other thing, we should mention this, we have been asking for recommendations, right?
Mother's Day ideas.
Some great ideas that have come in so far. Keep them coming.
Yeah, Mother's Day is coming up. We want to know if you want to treat your mother to something which is very Detroit.
And it can be an experience or it can just be an item. It can be a gift.
Product, gift.
Anything that supports local business.
Absolutely.
Right?
Send it in.
We want to know. None of this Outback Steakhouse chain.
Oh, no. Mom doesn't want that.
Right. None of that.
No.
Right? We want to know what's a cool Detroit thing to do.
Detroit mamas.
Send your suggestions to hello@thedebriefdetroit.com and maybe we'll read them on the podcast.
This is the Debrief.
On stage.
All right, Becky, let's get into it. What's going on stages around town?
Okay. Fisher Theater, On Your Feet, the Gloria Stefan show, opens Tuesday, May 1st.
I love Gloria Stefan.
Isn't she great? Get on your feet.
I'd do the conga.
Oh, definitely. Jewish Ensemble Theater in West Bloomfield has Hard Love. That's on now through May 6th. Matrix Theater Company, the show Kayak, closes this Sunday, April 29th. Meadowbrook Theater in Rochester, the All Night Strut, that's an opening show, opens on Wednesday, April 25th. At the Michigan Opera, the Children's Chorus presents HMS Pinafore on Saturday, April 28th.
I only know this from the West Wing episode. Do you ever see that episode where they're talking about whether that line comes from Pinafore or who's the playwright here? The guy who it's Hammerstein and
Rogers and Hammerstein. I was like, I know it's at the tip of my tongue.
And there's the whole West Wing episode that's around.
But I've known some people whose kids have been in this. They are phenomenal.
Really?
This is crazy talented kids. Slipstream Theater Initiative in Ferndale. Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind. That's been going on for a while. It's closing Saturday, April 28th. At the Fox Theater, we have The Illusionists. One night only, Friday, April 27th. And at Little Caesars Arena, Stars on Ice, Saturday, April 28th. The Redford Theater, instead of their normal movies, they've got Shrek the Musical, presented by the Park Players. Opens Saturday, April 27th and runs for 2 weekends.
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be popular. 2 cool ways to see a movie coming up. So the Detroit Opera House actually has a film screening. It's called There Was Always Sun Shining, and it also comes with a director Q&A. That's Thursday, April 26th, 7 to 9. The film is about the Negro baseball leagues.
Oh.
Yeah,
so this
it looks
is like
really interesting. A documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and includes free popcorn, pop, and wine.
Free food, and you get to ask the directors questions.
Exactly.
That's a pretty cool setup.
Yeah.
And then another intimate setting to see a movie is at the Imagine Theater in Royal Oak. Greg Russell's Wine and Recline.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show. He's got that series going. This is the 3rd one in the series.
You were there last month, right?
Yeah, for Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah.
I loved it. I want to see all my movies this way now. I'm spoiled.
It's great.
So what's the movie this month?
The Big Lebowski.
Now, have you guys seen this?
I'm so embarrassed. I didn't want you to ask that because I haven't seen it.
Don't feel bad because
But
I
I'm
have
going.
not either.
Oh, you haven't?
Wait a minute.
You and I have a lot in common.
I know
We're realizing
we
this
do.
every weekend. And
Neither
it's
of you have
embarrassing.
seen this
I know, we're
film.
embarrassing.
I know about the dude, but no, I've never seen the movie.
I mean, I know it, but I have not seen it.
This is a cult classic. This is the Coen brothers.
Obviously.
And this is Jeff Bridges in perhaps his most iconic role.
I know. I know exactly what he looks like, his character.
There's a whole
everything.
Zen philosophy around it. You know, there's like, I mean, it's.
I had a sheltered childhood. There's a lot of movies I haven't
Dude,
seen.
you've got to go see this film.
I've never even seen The Godfather.
Now
Really?
that's ridiculous.
What else haven't you? Back to the Future.
Yes.
Okay.
You've seen that? Okay.
Ghostbusters.
Bits and pieces.
What? Not even the whole thing?
The sum of all parts, probably.
Casablanca.
No.
Oh my God, that is
for
the greatest movie ever
goodness
made.
sakes.
It's the top of every list. I know.
Oh,
I was watching sports with my dad instead of movies when I was a kid. What can
I guess
I can
so.
tell you. I can tell you
Well-
the record of the 1990 New England Patriots, but I've never seen Casablanca.
Okay, and Seth and I cannot speak to that, so fine.
no, but what's your excuse? You can't speak to the Big Lebowski
Just can
either.
we just move on? Because I'm going to go see it. It's Wednesday, April 25th. So come see me there. Come say hi.
And make fun of her for never having seen it before.
Exactly. And but be there for my moment, my big moment.
This is a cool way to see a film
It
because it
is.
is in
Private.
Imagine Royal Oak.
Yep.
It's upstairs, so there's only like 30,
30
40
chairs on there, the big, cozy, comfy recliners.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Greg sets out the wine and the cheese, and he always brings some friends that are doing something cool. Last time they gave away a limo ride.
Yeah, and he's a cool guy.
Giveaways,
Just to hang
and
out
plus,
with him.
I'm sure Greg has some sort of inside scoop about Big Lebowski.
Because he
Some
knows everybody.
story and something. So, come Wednesday. That's all I got.
All right, coming up in just a few, we're going to talk, Jag, a little more up your alley about the sports that are going on around town.
Yeah, a little bit more about Hallie.
The sports that are going on around town. See, you can tell.
That's so
It's like
cute.
totally.
You with sports is me with movies. Got it.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Throw that piece of paper away.
That's coming up next.
The Deep Freeze.
History lesson.
All right, Becky, Jag, we are going to do something here. We've had a guest. She's actually come up. Her name has come up a number of times on this podcast. We had her on a few weeks back. We loved her, and we said, you know what? Let's get her back on a regular basis because she knows so much. So we have her here with us today. It is the founder of Detroit History Tours and the Detroit History Club, Bailey Sisoy-Isgro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me back, you guys.
Hi, Bailey.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Becky.
And Detroit History Tours, if you haven't been on one yet, you've got to go. I've taken
Definitely.
them. And the Detroit History Club events, you've been to one of these, right, Becky?
Yeah, so fun. I mean, you are so knowledgeable and you make it interesting. Like, I was never a big facts and figures kind of person, but you make it come alive. So I appreciate that.
Thank you both. That's such a compliment. Thank you.
Well, let's get into some of the history for this week. The Spirit of Detroit was dedicated, 60 years ago?
60 years ago in 1958. It was actually 3 years after it was commissioned. So the city decides they want some big icon representation of the city of Detroit. It's 1955. They go to Marshall Fredericks and they commission him through the Detroit Wayne Joint Building Authority to create what becomes the largest figural cast bronze made since the Renaissance period.
Wow.
It's tremendously huge. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's that big green guy kind of right at Jefferson and Woodward, two arms out, one holding an orb and one holding these little tiny people. And he's sort of sitting Indian style on the ground. He has come to represent Detroit. People have tattoos of him. When one of the sports team win, they dress him up in the jersey. 60 years ago this week, the $58,000 sculpture was dedicated here in Detroit.
Wow.
It's located just outside the Coleman A. Young building.
Does he
it's
have a
remained here
name
the entire
besides
time.
Spirit? Or, is it
Nope,
like
he
Chuck?
is the spirit of Detroit.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever been given a nickname.
Bailey, how did it come to be that what was in each hand? How did that piece of it come together?
Well, it wasn't like the big green guy was walking around and just picked two things up. it was
I wonder which one's
it was
heavier.
planned, you know. So it's supposed to be inspiration and ideas, that orb of light, this idea that Detroit has built the world. We've put the world on wheels. We are the center of innovation and ingenuity. And that's represented. On the other hand, it's this civic family, these people, the idea that it is the citizens of Detroit who are the spirit of Detroit. And then behind him on the wall is actually 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Above that are 2 crests, the crest of the city of Detroit and the crest of Wayne County. And so this was a very icon-heavy piece of art. I mean, in every way, shape, and form, this was planned to be the icon for the city. And today, we see it on everything from city garbage trucks and municipal vans and trucks you'll see roaming around the city. The city actually uses it as a logo.
So they were thinking about merch early on. They were like, all right, what can we put that'll be on T-shirts and keychains?
Oh, totally. I mean, and 60 years later, I see 25-year-old kids running around the city with it tattooed.
Yeah.
It is.
And some of the
really
newer food products and stuff you'll see it on their websites or on their packaging.
And part of that is because it's public art. So the copyright on it is really loose. You're free to interpret it, which makes it a great symbol of the city for people who might be starting a small business and not have buku bucks to spend on an advertising image they may have to purchase.
Yeah, and it immediately associates it with Detroit.
All right, we're going to get a new logo. Let me ask about one other thing, because I know that this is also the anniversary of Prohibition, right? What's that
coming up May 1st?
Yeah.
100 years.
Yeah.
100 years since the start of the noble and failed experiment. December 5th, we celebrate Repeal Day, the end of Prohibition, which, if you ask me, is a much better holiday.
Absolutely.
But 100 years ago, next week, we celebrate officially what is the start of Prohibition.
I think we don't celebrate it as much as mourn it, right?
We could recognize it.
Yeah.
It's the funeral for King Rye.
Yeah.
But it started as, this experiment. Everyone thought that it would last forever. We'd never had an amendment repealed. The 21st Amendment, which repealed Volstead Act prohibition, was the first. And this idea that we are going to go dry as a nation, this noble experiment, came to a catastrophic end 13 years later, when literally the crime and blood in the streets got so bad we didn't stop drinking because we all decided everybody could monitor themselves and suddenly alcohol was okay. Mm-hmm. We got rid of prohibition because it was so unbelievably hard to police, and because of the crime it created, and because of the money it put directly into criminals' hands through bootlegging and rum running. And 75% of all of the illegal alcohol that came into the United States of America during those 13 years of prohibition, it came through Michigan.
Right.
Wow.
That river is not very wide.
No, and it froze over 12 of the 13 years.
Oh,
exactly.
We're just gonna mosey on across in the keg. It'll be great.
Pair of ice skates, and you're in business.
Mm-hmm.
You can still smell it today. If you're down on the riverfront, Hiram Walker's Canadian Club Factory is just across the river. If you're ever down on the Detroit riverfront or out on Belle Isle, it sometimes smells like bagels or bakery bread. You're not smelling bread baking. You're actually smelling the whiskey being made.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Really?
There you go.
Close enough to smell it.
I like the smell of whiskey in the morning.
I did a tour of the Jack Daniel's distillery in Tennessee once, and as they're making the whiskey, they separate it. They lift the barrel, and you have the fumes coming off the barrel. And it was like I took a huff of Jack Daniel's whiskey. It was somewhat similar to what Bailey's describing here. It's the gaseous form of it, the smell of it.
Yeah.
Nice. Huh. So, all right. Well, we'll be celebrating. We'll be. What's the proper thing to do? You don't pour out a little liquor for morning prohibition.
Pour out illegal liquor.
I think you can kind of interpret it how you'd like, but I have an event I'll talk about later in the podcast.
All right, sounds good. Well, look, Bailey, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us. Of course, people can go check out everything that you're doing over at DetroitHistoryTours.com and DetroitHistoryClub.com. You got events coming up?
Yeah, we've got all sorts of stuff. We've got our walking tours are going for summer now that Michigan finally decided it could be summer.
Yes.
Our bus tours are always running, and we'd love to see you. And thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks. Well, can we check in with you every so often just to get a little history lesson?
I am always here for the history lover in you, Seth.
Aww. All right, speaking of the past, in just a few minutes, we're going to talk about what we all did last week.
The D3. The D3.
Sports Report.
All right, Jag, the sports thingies. There's any of those?
Okay, I'm
happening
gonna start easy for you, Seth. I'm gonna start off with stuff that's not like statistics or anything like that. This is just cool stuff happening right now.
Sportsy light.
I'm taking notes.
You're taking notes. Go ahead. Take your notes.
Never mind. I just can't.
All right,
tonight.
so something we'll probably hit on a couple times tonight. So, a really cool event in town is First Robotics STEM Championships. It's a big event that's going to bring 40,000 people downtown, and as a result, a lot of stuff going on at the downtown Detroit parks, including bumper bubble soccer, life-size foosball. That's when you're the guys. You run
That's
around the
awesome.
thing.
That's cool.
That's super cool.
Rock'em Sock'em robot tournament.
Whoa.
Ultimate frisbee and dodgeball. So all
go
these
back
things.
a minute. What's that first one? The bumper bubble soccer.
Oh, it's so funny. So it's like a giant inflatable kind of soccer ball sort of bubble.
Yeah.
So people go inside it and just their legs are sticking out.
This is like the Bubble Boy episode
Yeah,
on Seinfeld.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you
they
just see,
run
like,
into each other. Yeah.
Big, clear, inflatable balls.
I would
with
so
legs.
play that,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
A non-sports person like you would love this. A lot of this stuff going on.
5'4" person
Yes.
like me would love this.
Yes, your head might not make it out of the top, but still. Beacon Park is hosting most of this stuff, but stuff happening all around all the parks downtown. Also want to mention that if you have young kids, talking ages like 2 to 4, Detroit City FC, the soccer team, has something called Soccer Tots. Saturday mornings through Memorial Day weekend, your kids can play, learn soccer, get lessons. The kids get a mini ball and a jersey, and because it's early Saturday morning, moms and dads get coffee and bagels from Detroit Institute of Bagels while you're there and your kids are playing. So
Win-win.
Something cool for your kids. PGA Tour could be coming to Detroit. This is really cool. It's going to bring a lot of revenue into the city. This is from the Detroit News today, Monday. Quicken Loans had pulled out of their sponsorship out of a tournament in Washington, D.C. because they wanted to give Detroit priority.
Yeah.
So that's the rumor that they're close to making a deal to bring a legitimate PGA Tour event to the Detroit Golf Club as the most likely destination. It would come for next year, 2019, and it would be the first PGA event in Michigan since the Buick Open back in 2009.
Wow.
And then kind of a cool thing here, 2 strangers rolled side-by-side perfect bowling games in Westland this week.
What?
So Darren Flores, who's apparently like a savant because it's his 53rd perfect game.
Whoa.
Wait.
How old is he?
Old enough to roll 53 perfect bowling
But
games.
I mean, wow. Is that like every week?
Yeah,
What?
I got to give Justin Rose at Channel 7 the credit for this story. So the odds of rolling a perfect game are 11,500 to 1, and Darren's done it 53 times. So imagine how many games he's bowled.
Yes.
11,500 times 53.
And 2 people did it side by side. The odds
Yeah,
have
who's
got
the
to be
other person?
astronomical.
Yeah, so Darren finishes his perfect game, and then he's rooting for the girl on the lane next to him, which is Ashley Gluba. She had actually done a perfect game 3 days earlier, but it was not an official sanctioned event, so it didn't count. This one counted. So she's just rolled 2. Only one of them counted, but even to pull it off.
What
twice,
does it take to sanction the game?
I think you have to have the right shirts, and you have to have
the
the bowling
shoes,
shirts
yeah.
and the shoes.
Right,
And
there's a whole ritual.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lamb gets killed and put up on the altar.
Oh, sure, sure.
Wouldn't it be cute
you
if
just got that dark, man. Where did that come from? We're talking about bowling, and now you're going all biblical on
He
us.
gets all nervous about the sportsies.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
he-
it be cute if these 2 got married? If they just got hitched and then...
Yeah, and they have
Bowling-themed
perfect bowling
wedding.
babies.
300 would be the theme of the wedding.
Aw.
Okay.
And then they kill the lamb and put it up on the altar.
Stop!
Stop! Seriously,
Yuck.
dude. All right, Detroit Lions, big week for them. The schedule came out last Thursday. They've got a couple primetime games that only the teams that they really want to highlight get. So they open up on Monday Night Football here, Ford Field against the Jets. And they host the Patriots a couple weeks after that on Sunday Night Football, September 23rd.
Now, who are you rooting for in this game?
Yeah, really.
I have to confess, because I was born in Boston, the Patriots are my wife, the Lions are my mistress. So I root for them both, but fortunately, they only play each other every 4 years, and I only have this conflict every 4 years.
And how does your wife feel about
I
that
know.
analogy?
Bleh.
There's certain things. Don't ruin my marriage 9 months
Go
in.
on.
Okay. and the Thanksgiving Day game will be against the Bears. Other Lions news: voluntary mini camps are this week. You get to have some extra practices if you have a new coach, as the Lions do in Matt Patricia. NFL draft is Thursday through Saturday. Most experts have the Lions taking either someone on defense or a running back with their first pick. They pick number 20, same number worn, by Mr. Barry Sanders. All right.
Cool.
Even Becky knows who Barry Sanders is.
I do.
All right.
You can tell me after the show.
Okay. And then since the NFL draft, if you're not a sports fan, even if you are a sports fan, is painfully boring as it goes on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this team has 10 minutes to choose their next player. So they're trying to make the last rounds on Saturday interesting by doing different themed things for different teams. So a lot of them are doing it like on military bases or military ships, which is really cool. The Miami Dolphins pick is going to be delivered by the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas football team and the family of their head coach Aaron Feist, that was of course killed in the shooting earlier this year. So
Parkland,
cool.
So that's a cool thing to do. And on the other odd side of things, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have their pick delivered by a parrot to a team employee on the pirate ship at their stadium.
Oh, boy.
Probably wants a draft pick. I don't know. So it's
It's like Game of Thrones, you know?
Yeah,
where,
It got me thinking. Like, so these teams are doing things, to their city.
You're right.
What should the Lions do?
Gosh.
I'm thinking it's got to be either Motown or Cars,
Something
right?
Cars, like some kind of really cool
I
car should
deliver it.
drive up.
right.
Yeah, like somebody rolls up
Well,
in a
how about-
57 Chevy.
How about like a Motown star drives up in a 57
like
Chevy?
Berry Gordy or somebody like that.
Well, probably wouldn't be him.
Somebody
but-
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
not-
alive, but he lives in LA.
Okay.
I think they dig up, Jimmy Hoffa's carcass.
or that.
And there's just, a draft
Continuing
pick
with
in
the
there.
dark
Right. Yes.
death theme.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to you this week, Seth, but you're in a weird
Get
place.
this man a Mountain Dew.
Finally, Tigers, nobody expected anything out of them this year rebuilding. They're a respectable 9 wins and 11 losses on the young season as we record this. Next week, they're on the road at Pittsburgh and at Baltimore, back at Comerica to take on the Tampa Bay Rays next week.
We're going to talk about what's happening in the food and drink scene here in Detroit in just a few. Stick around.
This is the D3.
About last week.
All right, we always like to take a few moments to reflect, to stop and go, smell the roses. What happened during the last week? We'll start with you, Jag.
I went to two very well-known suburban restaurant locations. I went to, I always forget the name of it, but I went on Becky's recommendation.
The gas station place?
Yeah.
Mr. Kebab.
Mr. Kebab, so it was ranked one of the top 13 gas station restaurants in the country. So I'm like, if it's in my backyard, I've got to try
It's
it.
so good.
The hummus was unbelievable.
So creamy.
The chicken and the beef and everything, it was fantastic. My
So
wife
you
and
were-
I got lunch there, and it was great.
You were happy. Good.
Very happy. And then also, Dairy Deluxe, Woodward and 14 Mile. Got my first ice cream of the season last weekend because it was nice and it was warm enough.
Yeah.
Small family-owned business and really, really good ice cream. And they come out different Sundays every year. So Dairy
Yeah.
Deluxe is one of my spots for sure.
Can I ask, having
Nice.
not grown up in the Midwest, that is a thing out here, is these little ice cream stands.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
They're all over the place.
All over.
I've never seen that
It's too
anywhere
hot
else
on the
I've
West
ever-
Coast. I don't know. They melt.
I don't know what it is. I've never seen it
We
before.
just get
but
so
it's,
excited.
Oh, you Northern
so-
California people trust getting your avocado ice cream, I'm sure.
Well, they can. They're just they can get ice cream any time of the year, and they just take it for granted.
There's a lot of good ones around here. Ray's and Royal Oak is another great one.
That's
so-
open all year, but
Yeah.
yeah, the ones that are like shacks and they close down in the winter, and
right.
then they
I lived
open up.
across the street from one when I was in Clawson until I moved. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I went for my first bike ride of the season because the weather broke this
Yes.
week, and finally,
So nice.
And we were passing one over in Ferndale, and the line was just around
Oh,
the
right.
block.
As soon, yeah. hmm
Yeah, it was
The
crazy.
one that I grew up by, it used to have a really cute sign that said "Bikini season is coming." As they did the countdown. To,
So are some better than others? I mean, is there something you look for? Or are they all just
I think they're pretty similar, but
Okay.
people have their favorites. Like, what did you get, Jack? When you
It's funny every time. Like my wife laughs at me. So I need 5 minutes to look at the menu because the menu's huge.
yes, a
and I went.
bazillion things.
I got the homemade ice cream sandwich, which you can't go
Oh,
wrong with. It's like
yeah.
homemade chocolate chip cookies, the vanilla ice cream. The sandwich is so good.
That sounds good.
Makes
I'm
me
a
wanna
fan of
stop
like
my way
the
home.
dipped cone, like the swirly cone dipped in chocolate.
Chocolate. They do cherry and other stuff too, but
Yeah,
you're a chocolate girl.
Yeah.
I like anything that's got like a bag of cookies that they stepped on and then sprinkled on top.
The cookie crumbles.
Yeah,
There
that
you
kind
go.
of stuff. I'm into that. So
Just don't get a Blizzard or DQ. Go to one of these local places.
Yes.
yeah. All right. I'm hungry now.
I know. Starving.
What about you, Becky? What'd you do?
Well, I can beat that because I went to the Jack White concert.
I
did, and I wasn't expecting it, and one of my besties, she had an extra ticket and took me along, so it was fantastic.
Wow.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was just the epitome of rock show.
How so?
You felt like, even though it's a huge arena, you felt like you still could have been in a garage somewhere. I mean, he manipulates the sound as such. So, you have the feedback and all that. And it was so crisp and tight, but it also just felt very Detroit. Like the crowd, the vibe, everything. It was just really Detroit.
He's a rock star, too.
It's complete rock star.
Would you put him up in like the Detroit rock pantheon now with like the Seegers of the world?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yes, no doubt. I mean, so talented. But what also is super sweet is the people he picked. His band is insane.
Really?
It's this female drummer. He has 2 keyboard synthesizer guys. His bass player, they've been playing together since they were 12.
That's
wow.
cool.
Written stuff together, so just the whole band was just phenomenal. He had these background singers that were great. So the whole thing was just this shrine to great musicianship, and the crowd was really into it. He wore a Cast Tech jersey at one point.
That's cool. Yeah. Brought his mom up too.
That was my favorite part. So he's like, I want to introduce you to my mom, and she comes up and she's like half the size of him, gray-haired lady in this dress, and they sang together, Hotel Yorba.
Oh, wow.
And then they broke into a dance. They did a polka together.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, do you guys know Hotel Yorba?
Yeah.
The place? I mean, you know the song, but do you know the place?
No, I know the song.
It's a hotel that was in Detroit. It's since been torn down.
Oh.
But, so it used to be not far from... If I went from my house to downtown Detroit, I would see it along I-75. Huge sign that said Hotel Yorba in the light-up letters. But it was pretty derelict by the time.
It just had vacancy at that point.
Yeah. But so it's kind of one of the, like the Uniroyal Tire or something like that for a time.
Right.
So
I want to ask you about the show, Becky, about no phone. So they make you put your phone in the little pouch so it can't work?
Immediately. So they put it in these pouches as soon as you walk in. But they did have little places where if you really needed to take a call or you wanted to do something. But it was like a little corral with 2 guards.
Right, like if you're smoking at the airport.
Yeah. So you had to like go in there, get it unlocked, use it, and then get it back locked. I thought it was awesome. And I want to tell you, I ran into more people I know than any other show.
It really
I think
was
just
a hometown
because
show.
It was a hometown show. Plus, I think everyone was looking up.
Right.
It was like really community. So you're in the big concourse area and you're just looking around and waiting to talk to people. We probably talked to a dozen friends.
It was like it was pre-2000.
Yeah, and there was none of this like, oh, let me text to see if I can meet up with so-and-so. There was none of that stress. I found it super relaxing.
I am one of those people who my phone is never more than 5 feet from me on the service. And oh my God, not being able to have my phone for 3 hours would be awful. But the more people I talked to that went to the show, it seems like it was fantastic.
I kind of want to like hire somebody to come to my house to lock up my phone for a couple hours every day.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
You pay me. Yep.
Because it was
No problem.
really freeing. And then I also love just watching the show, not thinking about like, oh, should I like take a little video of this to show somebody later or whatever. I was like, no, just be there. And that was super. And then not having to look through anyone else's phone.
You were in the moment.
Totally. And you could feel it. People brought old-fashioned lighters for the end.
Right.
Yeah.
I will tell you the last time that I can remember putting my phone away and not using it for a night, it was July 22nd, 2017, and I can tell you why I remember that date.
Why?
It was my wedding.
Well, thank God then.
That was the one night I put my phone away for the night.
You weren't Snapchatting your wedding?
No. I mean, I looked to see what people sent me.
You had to do that if you go to Paisley Park.
Yes, that's where else I had experienced it recently. And it really does. It just reminds you to just be where you are.
Oh, that's cool.
But the show was great. And honestly, I knew it would be good, but I'm not the world's greatest Jack White fan. Like several songs I didn't even recognize, to be totally honest with you. But
those are the new ones.
No, I actually recognized those because I had watched SNL. But he did a great encore. It was just super high quality, awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in just a few, Jag, you got a chance to talk to the folks at Motor City Nightmares. We're going to find out what that's all about.
The D breathe.
Food and drink.
Becky, you're the one who knows everything about the food and drink scene. So.
Maybe not everything, but I do like to eat and get my drink on.
So what's going on this week?
So we talked to Bailey briefly. It's the 100th anniversary of Prohibition going into effect in Michigan on May 1st. So I said I'd tell you about a cool event. It's at Detroit City Distillery. It's this Saturday, April 28th. For $15, you get a drink and a mourning armband.
That's MOUR.
Yes, like a funeral band. There's specials all night long. And then at midnight, they're going to play taps for Old John Barleycorn.
That's the funeral song.
Yeah, well, taps for... Yeah, exactly. But the John Barleycorn is this British folk song, so it pays. It's like personifying how you make whiskey and grow the crops. So they're going to do that, and then reveal a password-only speakeasy cocktail that they're featuring. So
What's
check
the
it out.
password?
Well, I can't tell you.
You have to pay the
go.
$15 and go, and then you
I'll
get.
bet you it's password. I'll bet you it's like.
I bet it's password with dollar signs instead of the S.
That's probably what
an
it is.
exclamation point on the end.
Yeah.
What's the password? Password with dollar signs.
Sneaky. So we also, piggybacking on the first championship that's coming to town. First of all, do you guys know what first is?
It's the STEM stuff, right?
Well, it stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. So it's this giant robotics championship.
Okay.
This is going on at Cobo and
big
then
deal.
opening
At
and ceremony,
Cobo.
opening and closing at Ford Field.
Right, and it's 4 days long. The reason I know so much about this is because my cousin coaches the team from Massachusetts that's coming.
That's cool.
And so he was telling me about what a big deal this is. And it's never been in Detroit before, so it's first time in Detroit. Tons of people coming to town. And one of the things they're doing is on Sunday, April 29th, they're putting more than double the usual amount of food trucks out.
Those kids are going to.
Those kids are going to want to eat.
They're going to work up an appetite. They're going to be pulling all-nighters, tweaking their stuff,
Yeah.
and this is going to be great. They're going to come for some Mediterranean street food and some tacos
Right.
and whatever else.
So I think the city's really stepping up. Like, how are we going to feed all these people? And what an amazing idea to get the food trucks going. So all the Detroit parks, they're going to have up to 26 food trucks a day.
I don't think robots like food truck food.
I think the kids who run robots do.
That's true. They might.
You got mac and cheese, tacos, pizza, sushi, whatever you want. And then, you can divide and conquer.
I might go just for the food trucks.
Well, that's why I'm telling you guys.
Come for the food trucks. Stay for the robots.
I come for the food truck, stay for the science.
Ooh, no.
Stay for the
Robots is
people
better than
watching.
science.
People watching.
There's going to be 30 or 40,000 of them to watch, so
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
a big weekend
yeah.
downtown.
Okay, another thing I wanted to tell you about, this is close to my heart. Dining Out for Life is this Thursday, April 26th. It's actually a national event, but I'm involved locally through my affiliation with Matrix Human Services, and we have programs through the Michigan AIDS Coalition health program. So it's all around HIV and AIDS service organizations that provide, services to our local community. So one day, restaurants join in and donate a percentage of their proceeds to us to fight AIDS. So who doesn't love going out to eat, right? That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
And these are organizations that raise awareness and testing and that sort of stuff. Okay.
Exactly. And so there's about 20 local restaurants that have signed on. You can go breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat out all day long.
That's
wrong
not,
with
that's
that.
not bad,
Yeah.
right?
So whoever
Wow.
wants to join me.
So how do you find the list?
Yep. So you go on to matrixhumanservices.org, or you can go to diningoutforlife.com/Detroit.
And will you explain a little bit, because I know you're involved with this organization, but I actually don't know the full backstory. What is Matrix Human Services?
Well, basically, we're the largest human service organization in Detroit. We've been around for over 110 years, and we're all about breaking the cycle of poverty for Detroiters. And one of those things is health.
And when, I don't even know what that term means. When you say human services, what kind of things are we talking about?
Any kind of social service, from basically basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, up through empowerment, just to how to sustain yourself, how to get a job, how to empower yourself to be independent. So we talk about taking people from dependence to independence.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is literally the easiest way you can support this organization. And restaurants are giving up to, I think the highest one is 35% of what you
Wow,
spend.
that's really
so
cool.
it's some big dollars.
All right, cool. So the matrixhumanservices.org or diningoutforlife.com/Detroit.
Yep. Okay, I got a couple of openings. I guess actually they're reopenings of places around town. A place called the Willis Show Bar will reopen this Friday, April 27th. It's been shuttered for 40 years.
This was an area of town, correct me if I'm wrong, that got pretty sketchy a while back,
Yeah, it's
right?
a Cass corridor.
Yep.
Some now say Midtown, they overlap.
Rebranding.
Yes. It's on the corner of Willis and 3rd right there. So a lot of revitalization going on. But the Willis Show Bar, it originally opened in 1949. It operated for 30 years really successfully. But yeah, that's when things were getting sketchy in the 70s, steep decline. But at the time, it used to be one of many jazz clubs and cabarets, almost all gone. But it just kind of sat like empty, and there were a lot of jewels inside. So they've restored the whole thing painstakingly. It's taken a long time. And they want to honor all 3 of the decades that they were in operation. So there's the original Art Moderne ceiling, there's leather booths, and it's set up so all the seats in the house face the stage. They're going to do blues and jazz concerts as well as burlesque. Really, they want to honor that era. So they want people to get into it and like dress up and be part of that going out.
That's the thing that amazes me about this city is the fact that there are just all these buildings that just shut down for like 40 or 50
Seriously.
years and nobody's seen the inside and they're in cool places or cool neighborhoods or historic neighborhoods, and then you go inside and it's just amazing what's there.
Yep.
And can hopefully be restored.
Restored and uncovered and all that kind of stuff.
I can't wait to see this because it sounds incredible. And so you can go and enjoy a show and drink your classic martinis and champagne. And
I feel like I would need to put a suit on to go in.
I think that's encouragement, what they're encouraging people to do.
So that's this Friday night. It's reopening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Awesome.
And on the other side of the food spectrum, in Hazel Park, Doug's Delight is reopening. It's a casual ice cream hot dog stand, kind of like the places we were talking about before. So it closed 3.5 years ago, but now it's opened this Wednesday, April 25th. They're going to start opening 5 days a week. And the menu has been created by Mabel Gray chefs.
Cool.
James Rigato and Christina Conger. Includes sweets and snacks. They describe it as bowling alley chic food. Like how hipsters.
Now, if you're bowling a game of 300, you might not be getting food on your fingers.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen The Big Lebowski, you don't really know what bowling alley chic is.
Oh,
all right?
we'll see.
You gotta
Okay, another
see-
tie-in.
You got to watch just to prep.
Okay. So, yeah, this place, you have to check it out. You can get chili dogs, like pretty traditional, loaded with the National Coney Island chili, nacho cheese. But you can also get like gourmet stuff on it, homemade kimchi. And then there's going to be all homemade baked goods, brownies, cookies, and then along with the soft serve ice cream.
Okay, gourmet kimchi on a hot dog. Okay, that sounds kind of hipster, kind of cool. I've only been in Detroit for 6 years. If you put kimchi on it, it's not a coney. It's no longer
it's not a
ready.
coney. I'm
It's
not
a hot
saying
dog. It's not a coney.
I'm not saying it's a coney. No.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. Okay.
Definitely.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about the stand-up comedy shows that are happening around town.
I would like to say to the people of Detroit,
I can feel the difference.
Come down to Detroit.
The Detroit Institute of Arts.
The Detroit Zoo.
The Michigan Science Center.
Detroit Cocktail Classic.
The Arab American National Museum.
The Little Caesars Arena.
The Henry Ford.
Eastern Market.
The Q Line.
The Detroit Derby Girls.
Motor City Brew Tours.
I think everybody can feel
it's
it.
a comeback story that everybody's been rooting for.
Detroit is moving.
And you're listening to The Debrief.
And you are listening to The Debrief.
The debrief. Debrief.
The Debrief.
All right, Jag, what is Motor City Nightmares?
It is kind of a combination of Comic-Con and a film festival all rolled into one. So this week got the chance to sit down with Todd Brunswick. I sat down with him over at the Sheraton Novi where the event's being held all weekend. It's over on Haggerty. And this is the 10th year they've been doing it. And he walked in and everybody in the lobby knew him by name. Todd, hey Todd, how are you? Like it's a real family atmosphere over there. Like everybody behind the desk, all the bartenders at the bar, they knew him in the second he walked in. So it was really cool. Big names that are going to be there this year include Barry Bostwick from Rocky Horror Picture Show, Malcolm McDowell from Clockwork Orange, Linda Blair from The Exorcist.
That is one of my
Spooky.
favorite.
Yeah, I have seen that.
So have you guys, I mean, you haven't seen The Big Lebowski. Let's talk about horror films. You guys like horror films?
I'm not. I've only seen a couple. I haven't seen a lot of them. I'm more of a comedy guy.
I like scary movies, but I don't like gory movies.
Well, and this is the thing. Talking to Todd, not being a horror movie film fan per se, like I was still able to get a lot out of this. Heather Langenkamp from Nightmare on Elm Street, another one that's there. So we got to talking about how he kind of was into this horror genre as like a pet project almost and a passion project. And then his day job said, you got to lay everybody off in your department and you're gone too. And he said, well, here's my opportunity to get into it.
Pursue his dream.
So he and his wife kind of got into this. And then I asked him how they got started going from the movies into this whole festival.
My wife and I are filmmakers, and we've been making movies in the metro area since 2000 was our first film, Biker Zombies from Detroit. We got reasonable distribution and things like that, but we didn't really have like an audience even in our hometown. I mean, the handful of people that worked with the film or associated, to try to do the festival circuit all around was really costly and expensive for independents. So we decided we'll do our own film festival here, screen our own films. We had, I'm thinking, 5 or 6 titles that we wanted to promote. And we've been going to Cinema Wasteland and a couple other, cons around the region. And we decided, well, we'll do the film festival and we'll do a horror movie convention to kind of like, just bring people in and hopefully, they'll find the movies as part of that. So really that was it. It was just a way to bring people to an event and, and put on a show.
So it was really cool how the whole thing came together. And as we sat down and we kept talking, obviously the main parts are part Comic-Con for horror movies, part film festival. And I asked them what kind of some of the highlights of the weekend would be.
What we really strive to do is there's always the celebrity talent. So if you want to get the autographs and the photo ops and things like that, sure, that's always great. The panels are a lot of fun where they get to hear some of the very candid stories behind the scenes on some of your favorite movies and, some of your favorite people. One of my favorites, and it always is the Devil's Rejects panel. We have Sid Haig and William Forsythe coming in. So we have like the two rivals from the Devil's Rejects franchise. They're two of the like most chill, relaxed, easygoing, like sit down, have a beer, and I'll tell you, like that kind of thing. There's also what we really try to do is we feature a lot of like artists and creatives. So there's a lot of original artwork here, horror related mostly. Sculptors, painters, illustrators, like you name it, it's all here, as well as the memorabilia collectors and things like that. But we really try to focus on it being more of a creative expo horror show more than just like an autograph show. Parties at night, the Friday and Saturday night after parties are usually a lot of fun. We've got some really great local bands coming in, very themed, from the amino acids and Krillin and Bam Bam and the Caveman. And it's just a lot of fun.
I would love to go see some of those panels. I'd want to go see a panel on The Exorcist because that is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and I'd want to hear about the differences between what made it into the director's cut and what didn't.
No, that stuff's
because there's
cool.
some freaky things in the director's cut, and then the ending's just not as.
Yeah, it's interesting what gets left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. Have you guys been to like Comic-Con or any kind of events like that where you go see these celebrity roundtables?
No, but I totally would.
Because there's a difference, because you've got the panels, which Todd was just talking about, which are, you kind of Q&A from the audience. You've got people up on a table, like on a dais. But the other thing you told me about are the round tables. The difference between a panel and a round table, the round table is obviously a round table, but they're industry insiders. And they're kind of swapping stories as what it was like to sort of make it in the business. So instead of a Q&A with the audience, it's more of kind of a peeling away the layers of the onion and looking at what's going on in between them.
The roundtables are more industry driven. So a couple years ago, we had Tom Atkins here and talking to a group of actors, and he's explaining how he was on Broadway and he couldn't get out of a contract to go do a movie with Audrey Hepburn because he couldn't get out of his contract. The Glass Menagerie was the movie he was up for. You're hearing like actor stories, like real personal, like I couldn't get out of this and I could have been in that movie starring with her. I tested with her, we screened together, everybody wanted me in it, but they wouldn't break my contract for the Broadway thing. To hear this is what it takes to make it in the business. And we had Todd Farmer, who had written he's a screenwriter from like Jason X, and to hear the whole process of what it's like being a struggling screenwriter, sleeping above someone's garage, because, it gives people that kind of like insider, how the industry really kind of works, versus what you see splashed across the how-to books, and getting that kind of access to people.
I got to get my son to this. So you guys know my son Joe's going to be going to filmmaking school in the fall, and he wants to make horror movies.
Oh, Oh,
yeah. That's his genre. He's watched so many.
Does he like the gory, or does he like
He likes all.
Okay.
All of it. Yeah. And that's what the kind of films he wants to make. So I got to get him there.
Well, I'm going to get you hooked up with Todd, because he invited us all to come down, because it's a really cool event. And for anybody who wants to go, it's really inexpensive as well. I'll mention this, as I mentioned in the end, but I'll mention it now. I mean, tickets start at $20, $30 a day. You get the whole weekend pass for $65. If you want the full access to everything, it's only $150 for the whole weekend.
That's so reasonable.
Really reasonable price.
So what are your son's favorite horror films?
He likes The Hills Have Eyes.
Okay.
He actually likes the Saw movies. He likes that real psychological.
See, I like the first one, and then I fell off.
Yeah, I'd say it diminishes. Yeah, the first was the best. he'll watch almost anything, but I would say those are a couple of his favorites.
I like the Japanese horror, the J-horror, the Grudge, the Ring, the kind of spooky. Because I'm with you. I don't necessarily like the glory.
Yeah, he doesn't mind that. Yeah.
Blood spurting everywhere.
My brother is into the horror movies, and he likes the gory, bloody, kind of stuff. So one of the things I also taught about is, if there's any kind of competition between the different cons all around the place, trying to get different celebrities. And he told me that things are actually very friendly among the different groups, and they try to accommodate each other. Like maybe, you take this person this year, you take this person this year. But what was really interesting, he told me, was this kind of Midwestern hospitality to it. Because, we've all met celebrities that are either been really, really cool or totally shattered our dreams of what they might be.
Right.
And he kind of has this thing about if you're not going to be nice to people, you're not welcome back. He explained that.
Okay, I'm going to be real honest. The reason they come to the show and then we have them back is because they're really cool. They're good people. And I know I'm a fan, and I've met a handful of people that I've just admired their work, and they turn out to be a real a-hole. Just a jerk, and you're like crushed, So part of our mission with that was we wanted to make sure that is never going to be the experience of somebody attending this show. Like nobody can be, I'm going to say it, no one can be a dick, So if you're a dick, you're gone. And you might finish out the weekend, but you're never coming back to the show. Whether you're that way to any of the staff, the hotel staff, I mean, we're like a family here, so if you disrespect anybody in that way, it's over.
That was one of my favorite things that he said. Because, because you're always...
Because he swore.
No, not because he said a dirty word, but go ahead, Becky.
Because it's just a rule of life, right? Like, I think that's like a number one rule. Don't be
My uncle taught me his 2 rules for life. Number 1, know your audience. Number 2, be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
Yeah.
And I love this about it because we've all had encounters. Seth, in your radio days, I'm sure you have met some artists that were awesome and some that were just not, right?
Yes, I did. Definitely.
I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Care to name any? Because I could name a couple.
You know what? It was always the...
Well, that wouldn't be kind to name names.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't follow this rule. It was always the bands that were on their way up and had like one hit under their belt.
Really?
Like Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters, nicest guy in the world, even though he's a huge superstar. It was always that band that like was just
getting a little big for their britches.
Yes, it was that.
For me, it was a few years ago. Given that I grew up in Boston, Aerosmith is my favorite band of all time, and I got to go backstage at the Palace and meet Steven Tyler and Joe Perry.
Cool.
And it was like you had to get like one of those little kid leash backpacks so the kid doesn't go too far.
Yeah,
like
right.
They had to like keep me in line, and we go down and we met them. Steven Tyler was the nicest guy in the entire world. And I said to him, I said, thank you for writing a song about every girl my best friend or I dated in high school. And he laughed. And then I went over to Joe Perry, who did not say 2 words the entire time we were there. And it was funny because you could tell like he had to be there. He had to be there with Steven. He was kind of over it. He's been doing it for so long. But Steven was like dancing with the little 55 and 60-year-old ladies that were coming down to meet him. Steven Perry, so nice. Steven Tyler, rather, so nice. Joe Perry, meh, not so much.
Well, I think that brings to the second rule. It's like, be kind, but also connect with people, build connections. That's like the second rule of life. So, you just want to feel like you're
I've been playing
seen
guitar since Dream On. I don't need to make any more connections. I'm good.
So, you think Linda Blair is going to be cool?
Yeah, because I believe he's had her there before. So
she's a repeat.
If you want to meet some of these huge superstars in the world of horror movies, again, that's Todd's criteria for this thing. If you're not nice, you're out. And like I said, even the hotel staff, who they love him because he makes sure that all these celebrities that come in treat the staff nicely and with respect.
They're not trash in the room.
I so want to get vomited on by Linda Blair. That would be cool.
You would not be the first person to ask her that, I'm sure.
Oh,
that breaks another one of your rules, doesn't it?
Really weird mood tonight, Seth. Blood, vomit.
You have to see the movie.
No, we all know. That doesn't mean we want to be thrown up on.
One of the other cool events that he talked about over the course of the weekend is it's almost like a pageant, but not really.
What?
And it's called Miss Nightmare. I'll let Todd explain.
Crowning of Miss Nightmare is going to happen Saturday night, which is always a fun thing. It's like a Scream Queen competition, so to speak. And I'm going to qualify this. However, we've had some very attractive gals showing up wearing very little clothing, but they don't have the personality that the horror fans are really looking for. And there's like the bloody prom queen or the zombie bride or however they're dressed up for the event. Like, again, we've had girls wearing nothing but electrical tape and a Band-Aid, and that's not what the crowd wanted. We had a guy in drag one year who signed up, which I totally encouraged. I thought that was great, and he made it awesome-looking divine. Really kind of reinforced that it's about fun and enjoying it and just captivating the whole spirit of why we like horror movies,
I thought that was so cool. It's not about the prettiest girl in the room. It's the girl who can scream bloody murder. Again, know your audience. It's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this whole thing's going down April 27th, 28th, and 29th at the Novi Sheraton. It's Motor City Nightmares, and people can get all the details
on MotorCityNightmares.com. And again, tickets start $20-$30. If you want the whole high-end VIP, it's only going to run you $150. So it's a really reasonable price thing that local and these big national stars, it's right here in our backyard. If you're into horror movies, you got to check it out.
On the way, we're going to talk to Rio Scafone. She's the lead singer of Rio and the Rockabilly Revival. That's next.
Welcome to the D. Breathe.
Funny stuff.
All right, guys, let's take a quick look at what's happening in the stand-up comedy clubs this weekend. Over at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, you've got Sammy Obid. Also, Mike Bonner does this thing every month called Uptown Friday Night. You should definitely go check it out. Over at the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, we've got Detroit native who is back in town. He's actually lives in New York City these days, but Matt McClowry is going to be performing there at the Punchline Comedy Lounge. You've got Sean Larkin and friends. And over at the Holly Hotel, another friend of the show, Bill Bouchard. This guy, very, very, very funny dude. Dirty.
Hey.
Dirty dude, but he is very, very funny. He's kind of in the Don Rickles mode. He's like, you know what I mean? He's almost like an insult comic kind of guy.
Got it.
Also, a little bit of news. Jeff Horst, who is the fourth guy who was on Heart of the City. Of course, Mike Jeter, a good friend of the show, was, and our former co-host. He was on Heart of the City, which was this Kevin Hart show that they do on Comedy Central.
Cool, yeah.
We had two of the other guys who were on the show with him for a podcast episode.
Before my time.
Yeah, before your time, a couple of months back. We did not have Jeff Horst in.
Okay.
Yet.
Well, let's get him.
But big news from Jeff Horst. He was actually flown out after the original Kevin Hart special to film a 30-minute set at the historic Orpheum Theater in LA.
With him?
Yeah, just him. So that's a big deal. So we could be looking at another breakout comic coming from here in Detroit. So that's awesome. Coming up in just a few, we're going to look at the concerts that are happening around town.
The D-Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
All right, guys, I'm excited about our next guest.
Me
this
too.
is not the first time I've actually had her on a podcast.
Yeah, you told me, but it's the first time we've had a musician on the podcast since I've been here, and that's been one of the things I really want to do.
And look at her. She screams rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. She's got a skull dress on, and I'm so excited.
So
matching headband.
Mm-hmm.
We want to welcome Rio Scafone. She's the lead singer of Rio and the Rockabilly Revival.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. How are ya?
We're good.
So I last saw you when you were actually, was it the pilot episode of Detroiters that you were in?
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, it's been a while now.
It has been a while.
Yeah, it was the pilot of the Detroiters. That was so fun.
So we got to talk about what you've been up to, but before we get to that, let's talk about the band.
Yeah.
And explain to these guys, what a show is when it's a Rio and the Rockabilly Revival show. Like, what happened?
It's craziness. It's the critics call it the Church of Rock and Roll. And listen, that is very tongue in cheek. Okay, we are not,
churchy.
No, but we do bring the spirit. We approach it like a revival tent, like an old Southern revival tent, and so everybody is up on their feet. Some people drop to their knees. They testify to the spirit of rock and roll. They cry. You see it all, and it's such a good vibe. We're all about just giving a great show. I've got amazing players that I share the stage with, and choreography, wardrobe, the whole bit. It kind of harkens back to the old days when showmanship.
Right, it was the whole package.
The whole package.
Curated.
I came up on that.
Cool.
And so it's a wild, wild ride when we hit the stage.
When you say you came up on that, who are the artists that you listen to?
Yeah.
Well, when I say I came up on it, I'm actually referring to my uncle Jack Scott, who is one of the pioneers of early rock and roll and rockabilly. And so growing up, he was even before I was born, it was, he was doing Dick Clark on tours with, Little Richard and people like that. Anita Bryant would come over my grandma's house for spaghetti and meatballs and things like that. So I was steeped in the business from day one. And my uncle saw that in me, so he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And I got to see what it was like to build something from the ground up without any auto-tune or any smoke and mirrors, and I
just real talent,
the raw thing, and so it paid off.
When you say he saw it in you, do you have any memory, what's your first memory of that and realizing what that was when you looked at your uncle, that just star quality of that showmanship?
Well, I don't remember a single moment because I grew up around it. It was always. Mm-hmm. I think that I remember my mom has told me in the past I was about 5 years old and I was laying on the floor in the living room and my ear was pressed against that giant speaker, the ones you used to have with the 8-track. I know I'm dating myself now.
Now kids, an 8-track.
Now kids. And I used to press my ear up against the speaker and I used to listen real close to my uncle's recordings. And I would listen for everything, for the fingers across strings, the breath, and it gave me chills then. And as I talk about it right now, I'm getting goosebumps again. It's so just a part of who I am. And so the neighbors used to tell my parents, they would hear me at 12 midnight, 1 a.m., I would go to my window, and I'm 5, 6 years old, open the window and sing my uncle's songs out into the night air.
Oh, wow.
And the only audience I had at that time was a German Shepherd next door named Rebel.
Oh,
and he would lay there and listen to me, and I would just sing Johnny Cash and Jack Scott, that's my uncle, for hours. And my voice, I knew exactly how to project out the screen to get a reverb sound. I mean, I had it going on from the beginning. And I would just try to emulate that. I really grew up on a lot of male singers. So, the more swagger and rough and tumble, the better. And that's definitely can be seen in my show.
The dog never joined you in a duet, did he?
No, however, my first album with Rio and the Rockabilly Revival was called The Midnight Rebel Sessions.
Oh, that's perfect.
Oh, nice.
And so you're hearing it here. That was a little unknown fact. That's why it was named that.
Talk about the current band and the current incarnation. How long have you guys been together? What's the history?
Yeah, so we've been together for 7 years. For the most part, we've had the same players for a long time, which is, even to have the same players in a band for 2 or 3 years.
These days, yeah.
Oh my God, that's like
rare.
Crazy rare. But as the show has evolved, it's gotten more intense and demands have changed a little bit. So we've had a couple switch outs. I've had to hire different players to come in at different points. But my core, like my girls that sing with me, choreography, Renee Turner, Simone Winter, and Veronica Jason, they are such hard workers, and it's all about blending, and it's hard work.
Right.
It's really hard work, and they just pull it off so beautifully.
Make it look easy.
Everyone thinks when they come in, especially a musician will come in and to sub for us maybe on a show, and they are shocked at how actually difficult it is. We have so many hidden starts and stops and stop on a dime and go on. And
it's got to be intimidating for somebody to walk into new. Yeah.
Explain what goes into producing a show like this, because it's, I mean, what are you actually doing? I mean, there's choreography and there's...
Yeah. So you mean after I pull out my hair?
Yes.
Well, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. There's choreography, of course, and that has to be spot on. I run a really tight ship.
Yeah.
Again, to my background, my growing up, when you had to be on stage. So I run a tight ship, and choreography is spot on. Vocals, harmonies are really rich and deep, and we write. I write our original stuff, and any covers that we happen to do are our own arrangements. Oh. So Sean, on upright bass, he transcribes everything and writes everything out. And so we've got to get all the musicians on that page.
And how many musicians are we talking about on stage?
Well, the whole band, we have 7.
Right.
7. And so when somebody comes in, we hand them all the sheet music. We really do everything we can to make them a success. You know, we give them the written pieces, the recorded pieces, video, and we rehearse with them. We rehearse with them as much as they need, so that when we go up on stage, we rehearse individually and at home. So when we come together for a rehearsal, we're spit shining.
That's exactly how we do this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Is there like a blooper reel? Is there?
Oh, yes, there. Oh, is there a blooper reel? Oh, please.
You know, it kind of reminds me of the whole Motown philosophy, though. It was like,
it's very much.
Every piece, the costume, the choreography, it all has to be perfect.
Yeah, and you know, people notice. I mean, they sit there and they're just not sure what they're going to see. And they're really not sure because they see a lot of pictures of me in these, you know, pinup dresses and stuff. And when I walk out on stage, I'm wearing a pinup, you know, dress and what have you, but I'm wearing combat boots.
Right. Oh, sweet.
And I'm wearing, it's very tongue in cheek, and it's kind of emphasizing the dichotomy of what women used to be in that era. Very pretty and ladylike on the outside, but inside they're just,
they got a lot to say.
Yeah, they got a lot to say. So I go on stage pristine. I leave a bloody, sweaty mess.
Because that's real. Yeah, I love it.
Literally blood, sweat, and tears into every show.
Literally. My knees are all torn up. I'm on my knees a lot.
What kind of recovery do you have after a show? How soon do you do a show after you finish? Is it a couple days?
Not at this point. You know, I've got knees of steel now. But you know, it does take a lot. And so health is a really big factor, and training and water. I go through a gallon and a half of water before, during, well, not during because I can't do it on stage, but after the show.
Wow.
Gallon and a half total to recover.
I'm curious what goes through your head when you see other performers perform, like, because Beyonce is getting a lot of rave reviews for this performance that just happened at Coachella. And when you see something like that, what goes through your head?
Oh, she's phenomenal, of course. I love it. And I love the showmanship. It goes back to that showmanship. And she's such a strong, fearless performer. And for me, that just feels normal to me. I'm like, she
Look at her. Your job.
Look at her shine.
On the other side of the spectrum, and we certainly wouldn't ask you to name any names, but it must frustrate you to no end when you see a performer who's come up in whatever the American Idol era or whatever it is, and they get up there and they sing, but they don't put much effort into it. It must drive you crazy to see something like that.
Beyond measure. Beyond measure. And that starts with anyone playing with me. This is what rehearsal's like. I set up the video camera. It's recording the whole thing. I'm like a football coach. And I tell them, rehearsal is performance level. I want to see what every single one of you are doing.
You're the Bill Belichick of music.
I'm telling you what. You better tell somebody. Oh.
So then do you take a different approach when you're recording an album, or? Yeah,
very much so. We really try to make each player just extremely comfortable and whatever they need in the space they need. So what we usually do is we record in our own studio so that no one is rushed. They can come in if they want to try something. Great, go ahead and try it. It's very open and a very positive, creative space that way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, Rio, stick around for a few minutes because we want to talk to you more about everything that's going on, including you've got a new EP that you're working on.
Yeah.
And a new tour.
Yeah.
And new management. You've got a lot coming on.
A lot going on.
New.
Plus some Detroit Music Award nominations that we're going to talk about as well. So that's coming up.
This is the D
Concert calendar.
All right, Becky, what's going on with concerts?
Okay, here we go. Wednesday, April 25th, a band called Date Night US is playing at Trixie's in Hamtramck. These are three guys from Nashville. I've heard them compared to the Replacements and the Clean.
I'm a Replacements fan.
I know, so interesting. Thursday, April 26th, Grammy-winning Anthony David is returning by popular demand to the Music Hall Jazz Cafe. He's playing an encore performance. He sold out 2 shows in February. So check that out. Friday, April 27th, Jaden Smith is at St. Andrews Hall.
Lil's son, right?
Yeah, the one and only. And then I've got my bargain show of the week for you for $8. Check this out. It's called Cat Mania. It's a variety show at the Tangent Gallery in Detroit. It's all about the cats. It features music, burlesque, art, and vendors.
Sorry, I'm a dog person. I can't.
Yeah,
You can make it go.
You're turning into a cat lady right in front of our eyes. You know
I do have a couple of cats.
We're watching it up.
Yeah.
Let me ask. I mean, do you have favorite venues that you've played here in town, or are they? How are they different?
In town, I have to say probably my favorite place to play was Callahan's, which just closed.
Yeah, closed. Oh.
Yeah, we played many shows there. They were great.
Oh.
I have never been.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm not from
She's
the
new.
area. I'm
Yeah,
new.
it's more new,
So,
so.
yeah.
At least it doesn't come right off you like it did in the beginning set. Like, you have to tell people you're not from here. They can't tell just by looking at you
Right.
like before.
Right. It's not so obvious anymore. Okay, Saturday, April 28th, we have George Ezra at Royal Oak Music Theater.
You may know him from his song Budapest that was on the
Yes,
a couple of years
lots
ago.
of play. Ex-Ambassadors are at the Fillmore. And then Juan Atkins Deep Space Radio. This is a set of DJs at Motor City Wine. Big DJs spinning all night. One of the headliners is Stacey Hot Wax Hale. She's a pioneer of Detroit.
And Rio is
DJ.
nodding her
Yes.
head.
Oh, I mean, you know, Stacey. And so she's just
Fantastic.
amazing. And Motor City Wine is such a small, intimate experience. So if you can get there for that. And Juan Atkins, of course, was one of the founders of techno. So
Yeah.
Who are some of the other musicians in the Detroit area that you really admire? That
Oh my gosh, where do I begin? I'm almost afraid to say because then someone's going to say, "Well, you didn't."
You left out.
An awards show
like
speech.
picking babies. But what about something that's completely different from what you do, though?
Actually, I love all genres of music. My daughter, for instance, she's 8. She is into death metal.
Oh, my son is too. He's 17, and it is insane. I'm like, put the headphones
Mine's
on.
8 going on 17.
That's crazy. I got to tell my
Yes.
son that.
So
not
we-
many 8-year-old girls are death metal
No,
heads.
and so we really make it a point to just have a wide variety of music around us. So we listen to a little bit of everything. Obviously, I love calypso. I love flamenco. I love all, just you name it.
Is your daughter like horror films?
She doesn't like horror films. She hasn't seen
She
one
hasn't.
Yeah, I
yet.
was going to
That's
say,
right.
she's a little young. to have
But,
seen.
however, she'll be creating them one day because her art is as dark as they come.
We're going to get her to the Motor City.
Yes.
Motor City
Yep.
Nightmares. Yeah, my son wants to be a filmmaker and make horror films. So, yeah, maybe they'll work together someday.
Absolutely.
And score it with death metal.
Yeah.
Sunday, April 29th, totally different direction. The Motor City Symphony Orchestra presents their spring concert at Macomb Center for the Performing Arts. Monday, April 30th, Young Gravy at El Club. And then speaking of world music, Tuesday, May 1st, this is a cool thing. Avalon Bakery and Cafe, the one downtown, not the one in Cass Quarter, the original one. But it's a bigger space right there on Woodward. Every Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. through May 29th, they're doing this experimental world music set with Sean Blackman.
Oh, Sean. He's
yes.
great. I love Sean.
He's amazing. And there's a group now called the Audio Birds featuring Sean and a couple of his friends in the music world. So he did a bunch of a series of monthly shows at the Garden Theater, all focused on different countries, Spain, France, etc.
And explain this venue to me, Avalon Bakery. Why is this?
So Avalon's a pretty iconic Detroit place because they were one of the first to put a bakery and a coffee shop in a community space in Midtown when it was the Cass Quarter, when there was really nothing else going on.
Before the rebranding.
Before the
Yes.
rebranding. And they took a chance, along with Del Pryor Gallery and Goodwell's. There was a block there on Willis that kind of were pioneers in that area. So they've grown. They have a huge baking facility now. They sell at Whole Foods and all sorts of big stores now. But then they have this new bakery restaurant. So they're trying to, mix it up and have some happy hours and music. So that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
News around town, Eminem is celebrating milestone, 10 years of sobriety.
I saw this tweet. He put it out earlier in the week, and he's holding his coin, and God knows that man has been through a lot in his life. To be at this point is pretty commendable.
Right, 10 years. So, and you know what he credits with keeping himself sober? Running.
I would not have expected that.
Yeah. So he said when he got out of rehab, something had to replace that addiction, and he also needed to be able to sleep and lose weight.
What's interesting about that, having worked in Detroit radio, is Eminem could not go anywhere without presidential Secret Service security, because everybody in Detroit wants to come right up to him, like, yo, check out my jack, I'm the next Eminem.
That was my first question. Where's he running? I don't know.
It's got to be way out east, where he's got kind of the estate, and he's not bothered as much.
Right.
Like out on the farm or something.
Right. So congrats, Eminem.
Good for him.
I know.
Good for him.
This is the Debrief.
Want more?
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Go to the debriefdetroit.com.
In studio with us, we have the lead singer of Rio and the Rockabilly Revival, Rio Scafone. Let's talk about the fact that you are nominated for a couple of Detroit Music Awards coming up here.
Yeah, we are. We are nominated. We're on the final ballot for Outstanding Rock Pop Artist, and I'm nominated for Americana Songwriter, and Sean is nominated for Americana Instrumentalist.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah.
What happens at the Detroit, because she's presenting.
Yeah, I'm going to present one of the awards. Maybe I'll get to present one to you.
Oh my gosh, how great.
That would be amazing. But so I'm nervous as heck because I don't go on stage.
Have you been to the awards before?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
I've always wanted to, and for some reason I'm out of town or whatever. I've just never gone.
We need to give Becky a quick primer here.
So what do I wear?
Well, dress up, have fun, flashy. Everyone's got their rock and roll garb on.
Okay,
and
I might need to come in your closet.
Okay, yeah, come on over. We'll get it together.
Yeah.
So do you know where you're presenting in, because they have two ceremonies. One is at the Centaur Bar.
Oh no, I'm at the Fillmore.
Oh.
Well.
You are in for a treat.
What if I trip? What if I get something I can't pronounce?
It is the stage. You've been to the Fillmore
many
before,
times.
Right? You're going to be on that stage.
Yeah.
That's where you are.
That's my only chance to get on stage because it's not for singing. So.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, you'll have a great time. You'll have a great time.
It'll be your new Facebook profile picture. You on stage at the Fillmore.
We'll see. Yeah.
Let's also talk about the EP that you're working on. So, what is the process of creating an album for Rio and the Rockabilly Revival?
Well, now the EP is separate. We're doing two different projects. One is for Rio and the Rockabilly Revival, and that's going to be a full album.
And then you're doing a solo EP.
Yeah, and then I'm doing a solo EP, which I've been trying to do for years. But I've been a little tad busy with Rio and the Rockabilly Revival, and so I'm so excited.
So what is the difference? Like, are the things that you can do as a solo artist that?
Yes, yes, it is not. It's much more rock pop than Americana.
Okay.
There's electric bass, and it's like, got a thrill because I'm so used to the upright,
Yeah.
and I just have so much more freedom in some respects, so I can use, I've got some great players that have played on some of the tracks that are already in the can. Phil Hale, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He is just a talent beyond on keys, and I've just got a lot of great musicians.
Do you use all Detroit musicians?
Yes.
And
yes. So far on this one I have. There may be one or two that I want to do a special session with out of LA because I have a lot of friends out there. But for the most part, I try to keep it right here at home.
And you record in Detroit as well?
Yes, in our own studio.
Okay.
And then we either mix ourselves, or most of the time I give all my stuff to Peter J., who is a phenomenal engineer. I just love him so much. he's done so much great work for us.
That part of it really interests me because it's got to be when you bring somebody else in to mix it. It's got to be very subjective when you're mixing yourself. So to have another opinion or another perspective come in must be helpful in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. We'll start with a basic mix, and then we'll turn it over. And the great thing about Peter is that we've worked together now for a number of years, so he knows the sound. But now with my EP, he had so much fun with it because he's mixed for Rio and the Rockabilly Revival, which is a very Americana rock, like early rock sound. So there's not a lot of bells and whistles. We often will, just go bare bones. But with mine, it's very cinematic. He's like,
so it's fun for him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Very cinematic, very dramatic. And I've written all the songs on this one, and I'm almost done. I've only got 2 more songs to lay down, and they're ready to go. I'm so excited.
So do we have an ETA? When are we going to be able to?
When can we hear it?
Oh, I hate to say it.
No, we won't put you on the spot.
I hate to say it.
It'll be ready when it's ready.
Yeah, this summer.
Okay.
This summer. It's coming. It's just, those final little tweaks, and it's called Rise.
And it's really cool that you have your own studio because, like you mentioned earlier, you don't have the time constraints. Okay, we've only got 2 hours booked today. We've got to knock this out.
That's crazy making.
Does that change the process a little bit where maybe you don't have to have everything written before you record it? Can you record it as you go, or do you try to have the whole EP written before you record the whole thing?
Well, yes and no. Those are good questions. Most of the tracks are written already, and we've already fleshed it out and have it all ready to record. Because obviously, we pay our musicians for their time, and we don't want to, impose on their time. But for me, for vocals, it's so handy. I will often start a song in the studio. I'll just go into my studio and start recording vocals. They often come to me in my sleep, or in the middle of the night, some crazy time, and I just go and lay those tracks out for an idea. And then I'll bring Sean in, and he'll start playing his bass, or we'll bring a guitar in, and we build, and we flesh it all out, and then we record. And
Sounds like Prince. That's when I went to Paisley Park. That's exactly how he described it. He'd get up at 3 a.m. Something came to him overnight.
Absolutely.
And he just,
I do my best thinking in the shower. That's when ideas come to me.
And the acoustics can be great in there.
Yeah.
The only person who can hear you sing is you.
You sound fab.
So what about touring then? Are you starting to think about touring plans?
Yes, which is a whole other animal unto itself. Definitely with Rio and the Rockabilly Revival. We recently signed with Bread and Circuses, and they are going to be orchestrating our tour with Rio and the Rockabilly Revival
this
next year.
This is your new management company.
Next year, 2019. That's when Rio and the Rockabilly Revival album will come out, and then we'll tour for that. And so we're real excited. Lots of good things.
And are you touring stateside? You going international?
A little bit of both. Actually, we're hoping to kick off some tour dates here domestically this year. And then in 2019, after the album comes out, then we'll go and play some more dates here and hop overseas.
Because you've got an overseas fan base.
Yeah, we do. They're great. We love going to England, Ireland. They are wild.
Oh, I bet.
And I mean wild.
And any international artist you talk to talks about it's great to play shows in your home country, but when you go overseas, it's a different world.
It's a different world. Literally, we were playing in Ireland in a pub in this historical, beautiful hotel, and they were wild. It was 1 a.m. when we went on.
Wow.
And they were like, we had an audience ranging up to, they were probably pushing 60, 70.
Yeah.
And they're dancing on the table.
All night long.
On the tables all night long.
Yes.
That's
and they're
awesome.
just wild all the way down to, 19, milk on their breath.
Right.
But yeah, they're fabulous. And they love everything American, the music.
Right. Yeah.
They go wild. And a lot of them know my uncle. He's really big over there. So, of course, they want to come out and,
see the niece.
See the niece, yeah.
Now, how did you become big? Besides the uncle connection, how did you become big in the UK?
Well. So, I had recorded a scratch track for a song.
And for those who don't know, a scratch track.
Oh, yeah. It's just a bare bones. It's kind of like if you were just singing in the shower.
Right. Okay.
No production value whatsoever.
Okay.
And I had some crude elementary, guitar behind it. So I was singing just to try to flesh out the ideas for this song. And I sent it to a small group of friends. And said, listen to this.
Are they still friends?
Well, and I said, please do not share this with anyone outside this circle. As an artist, you get very sensitive about that. It would be like you guys walking out naked.
Right. It's
somewhere,
not my best work.
No, it's like, and so.
Wait a minute. Some of my best work is naked.
Story for another show.
I'm going to stick around for that show.
Yeah,
that's a visual.
The after-hours show.
That's a visual I'm not going to be able to shake.
And so the next thing I know, of course, when you ask someone not to share something, of course they do. And the next thing we know, it is being played in the UK on an internet station. As it was, of course, it was the only recording of it. And
wow.
And they got a good response to it. And when I heard, I literally I thought I was going to vomit.
You were mortified at the quality.
I was mortified. Again, naked, full Monty out there.
And vomiting.
Yeah. Oh, now that's a visual, right? And
you don't have Linda Blair by any chance, do you?
That's probably what I looked like.
Head was spinning.
But it has a good, in the end, it has a happy ending because then other DJs kind of heard it. They, they share a lot over there.
Sure.
And the next thing I know, they're just playing it and I let it go. Obviously, it came out on our album and it was polished and done. But it was a good lesson on how just to, let go. Because I'm a wee bit of a control freak when it comes to,
But I bet
we don't get that impression at all sitting here
not at all.
talking to you.
I'm telling you, I crack the whip. And so that was good for me. It was good for me to just kind of surrender to it and let it go.
What a cool story.
Well, that's awesome. Well, look, Rio Scafone, thank you so much for
you.
stopping by. The new EP is going to be called Rise.
Rise.
And that later this summer is all you can tell us so far.
Yes,
sir. The next album is not until next year.
Yeah, 2019.
All right.
Do you have a website that
Rio and the Rockabilly Revival.com.
Okay.
Of course, we're Facebook, Amazon, YouTube,
so
iTunes.
people can hear your music
the
anywhere.
Whole shebang, yeah.
Perfect.
And look, good luck at the Detroit Music Awards.
Yeah.
That's coming up
Thank
at
you.
the Fillmore. So
Thank you.
all right, maybe you'll be on stage.
I know, May 4th.
Who knows?
Break a leg.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D. Breathe.
She's a rock star, isn't she?
Oh, completely.
From the second she walked in
She
the door.
walked in, the whole vibe, the presence. Loved it.
I mean, a lot of people, I don't know if they realize this, but there are certain people that when you see them, I mean, I remember feeling this way the first time I ever saw Chris Cornell back when I was working in radio,
wow.
saw him backstage.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my intern that I was with, I was like, look, when this guy comes out, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know what it is. You're going to see a rock star. There is just something about him.
C'est je ne sais quoi.
That is magnetic.
Yeah, the it factor.
And she's got that.
Oh, definitely.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, just the moment you're like, that's a rock star.
Absolutely.
Well, look, thank you so much to Rio Scafone, lead singer of Rio and the Rockabilly Revival, for stopping by. Good luck to them at the Detroit Music Awards. Good luck to you as well, Becky.
Thank you.
Don't trip.
See?
What's the worst that could happen? It's not like anybody's ever opened the envelope and read the wrong name.
Oh, yeah, no.
We are going to give her nightmares before she does
Jesus.
this.
Also, thank you to Todd Brunswick of Motor City Nightmares. Speaking of
Nightmares.
If you
sounds
have
amazing.
Pretty incredible.
If you're a horror movie buff or you have even the slightest inkling,
Interest, it's
go
got
this
it all.
weekend. It's amazing.
Also, thank you to friend of the pod, Bailey Sisoy Isgrove of Detroit History Tours and the Detroit History Club. We're going to have her back on more often, right?
Yeah, I
she-
think a regular voice on the show.
Yeah, she knows her stuff.
She's great.
Look, if you like this podcast, first of all, the number one thing you can do is tell somebody. Tell a friend. Please spread the word. Let people know. We're trying to shine a spotlight on all the cool stuff that's happening. in
Leave us a
Detroit.
rating so other people
Yeah.
can find it.
Absolutely. Go into Apple Podcasts, leave a review. That helps out quite a bit. And don't the stars are nice. Fill out the stars. But
Give us some
But
words.
give us more than just a tap of your thumb.
Some details.
Please leave a review. Write something so that
We
other
read
people
them
can
all.
read it. Yes, we do. And we're wherever you want to be. Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, you name it, we are there. Also, we've even got our own mobile app that you can go download.
And this is funny because I've been trying to tell my parents about it now that I'm on the show, and I try to explain them how to download podcasts. I just need to tell them download the app.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
I'm gonna do that tomorrow.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. When you're telling friends, just tell them to download the app. It's a lot easier. You can also go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com. While you are there, sign up for the email list. We will email you a list of everything that's going on around town each week. Or if you want to join that email list by text, just text the word Detroit to the number 444-999. Becky, you want to plug anything this week? You got any tours going on?
As always, go to my website, enjoythed.com. We've got more Eastern Market tours coming up. We do them more frequently in the spring and summer months, and they're selling out. So if you want to go, come hungry, leave happy.
And another plug for the Matrix Human Services
Oh,
event.
yes, and please come. Maybe I'll see you at a restaurant because I'm going to 3 on August 26th, Thursday. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, dining out for life.
What about you, Jag?
Second episode of the Jag Show podcast is up. If you're liking podcasts, you can search for the Jag Show. Talk to a morning radio guy who was like the stunt guy and the prank call guy, and nobody would hire him because they're like, "Oh, you're just the stunt guy."
Oh,
and it turns
he got
out
pigeonholed.
He got typecast, but he beat the typecast, and now he's teaching at the collegiate level and finishing a master's thesis on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Fascinating
I got to
story.
listen to him.
I
Okay.
listened to the first episode. I haven't heard episode number 2 yet. First
Not me,
episode was
yeah.
fantastic.
Thank
though.
you.
Yes.
So, by the way, we are still looking for Mother's Day recommendations. Something Detroitish. There's a gift that's made by a company here in Detroit, or an experience like a great restaurant or something that supports local business. Please shoot us your recommendation to the email address hello@thedebriefdetroit.com. We are also on social media, The Debrief Detroit on Facebook, at The Debrief on Twitter, at The Debrief on Instagram, and we've got a Facebook group, What's Happening in Detroit This Week. Join it, and if you've got events going on.
I love getting all the notifications of everybody adding their events to the page. It's really cool.
There's some cool, weird stuff.
It's where you really dig into that different stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this city.
Sure is.
And of course, if you've got any announcements you want to send to us, you can send them to press, PRESS, at thedebriefdetroit.com. There it is, guys. Another show.
Love it.
We'll do it again next week. Talk to you later.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.